Okay, so today we're going to talk about dividing polynomials, and we're going to look at two different ways of doing this. One way, which is kind of difficult because you guys don't like to do long division, and one way that is rather simple, and that's called synthetic division. And you will want to use synthetic division, or I should say you will use synthetic division most of the time when you get the chance because it's much easier. But there are situations where you cannot do synthetic division. You have to use long division. And so you're just stuck with it. You got to love this comic here. Okay. Every once in a while they come up with something that's really kind of corny, but not really that funny. But you got it? What? Okay, copper, what's the charge? Okay, batteries have a charge to them. Okay, a salt and battery. And they have the things on the top are called contacts. Okay. All right, so we're going to do long division with polynomials. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to take and we're going to set it up so that our divisor, y minus 3, is going to be on the outside of the division symbol. And what we're dividing is going to be the dividend. That's going to go on the inside. But when we put it on the inside, there are two things that you have to be aware of. One is it has to be in standard form. And number two, if there's ever any missing terms, you have to replace those with a 0. So in this situation here, we have y minus 3 is going to be on the outside. And then when I put the dividend in, I have to write it in standard form. So we have to go 2y cubed minus y squared. But you notice there's no y term. So I have to have a place value there for that. So I got to put a 0y in here. And then plus 25. It's kind of like when you're doing long division and you get into the middle of a middle of one and you can't use it because it's too small. So, all right, so we're going to do this long division problem at the same time also so that we can mirror image these things while we're working on it. Okay, so let's do our numbers first of all. So we have 25 into 3,578. Okay? So what do I look for first again? Okay. All right, 25, we look to see if it goes into 3. It doesn't. But how many times does it go into 35? And that would be 1 time, right? Okay. So we put the 1 up over the 5. And what do I do then? What's the next step? Okay, we're going to multiply them, right? So we multiply 25 times 1, and we get 25. And then after I do that multiplication, we're going to subtract. Well, we're going to do the same thing with polynomials. The only difference is that instead of using y minus 3, we're going to focus on the y. Okay? So our focus is going to be here when it comes to determining how many times it goes into something. Okay? So how many times does y go into 2y cubed? Or we can think of it as what is 2y cubed divided by y. So we're just focusing on the first one, and just the first one here. So the y, 2y cubed and y. So what's 2y cubed divided by y? So if I wrote 2y cubed over y, what would you get? 2y squared, right? Okay. So I'm going to put 2y squared over the y squared term. I'm going to line up my like terms. So then, once I found that 1 over here with the long division, what did I do with the 1? Multiply it by the 25, right? So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to take 2y squared, and I'm going to multiply it by both parts y minus 3. So 2y squared times y is 2y cubed. And that's always going to be true. That first one is always going to be the same. And then I also have to multiply the 2y squared times the negative 3. Get negative 6y squared. And then we have to subtract, just like we did over here. So, but the difference is we're subtracting this whole polynomial. So the other day when you were subtracting polynomials, what did that mean you did? Do what, Rachel? Change the signs, yep. So when we subtract, we're going to change the signs. So this, the 2y cubed becomes negative, and the negative 6y squared becomes positive. Okay, so in our subtraction then, we're going to change the signs. So we get 2y cubed minus 2y cubed, which is 0. And negative y squared plus 6y squared is 5y squared. So we did the same thing using numbers, basically the same as with the polynomial. All right, so what's our next step? Next thing we do over here then with the numbers. Okay, we got to bring down the 7. Right, so we do that. All right. So then we ask ourselves, well, how many times does 25 go into 107? Or what is 107 divided by 25? 4. Okay. So we put the 4 over the 7 then. Do our multiplication, we get 100. 25 times 4. And then once again, we're going to subtract. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing with our variables then. We're going to bring down the 0y. And then we're going to focus on the 5y squared and the y. So how many times does y go into 5y squared? Or what's 5y squared divided by y? 5y, right? Right, Lauren? Okay. So I'll put plus 5y over the y term. And just like we found out that 25 goes into 107 4 times, and so we had to multiply 4 times 25, now we have to multiply 5y times the quantity y minus 3. So we get 5y squared minus 15y. And once again then, we will subtract, which means we're going to change the signs. So when I subtract here, the 5y squared becomes negative, the 15y becomes positive. So your first column each time, so the 5y squareds will cancel out to 0. Right? And then we get 15y. So then we're going to, I think we can do this now. Bring down the 25. we do the same thing. Focusing on the first one. So what is 15y divided by y? 15. So we say plus 15 here. And then we multiply again. 15y minus 45. And we subtract, change the signs. So we have 25 plus 45, which is 70. So my answer when I divide then is going to be 2y squared plus 5y plus 15 plus, okay, 70 over y minus 3. There's our answer. That's pretty interesting, right? Okay, let's do another one. So it's very similar to just doing long division like you did back in 3rd or 4th grade. Okay. Just throwing the variables in there tends to changes things a little bit, but not much. So let's look at this one here. X to the 4th minus 5x plus 10 divided by x plus 30. So we have x plus 3 on the outside. And then remember, we have to have place values for everything. So I need a 0x cubed, 0x squared also. So my first thing is I'm going to ask myself, what is x to the 4th divided by x? Focusing on the first one here and the first one there. X to the 4th divided by x is x cubed. Right, so I put x cubed over the x cubed term. And then we multiply. So we get x to the 4th plus 3x cubed. And then we're going to subtract. So when I subtract, changing all the signs. So we get x to the 4th minus x to the 4th is 0. And 0 minus 3x cubed is negative 3x cubed. And so then I will bring down the 0x squared. So then my focus is here. What is negative 3x cubed divided by x? So negative 3x cubed divided by x, how many times does x go into negative 3x cubed? Negative 3x squared. multiply. Negative 3x squared times x is negative 3x cubed. Negative 3x squared times 3 is negative 9x squared. So now we're going to subtract. So we change the signs. In this case, then it's going to change both those signs to positive. So negative 3x cubed plus 3x cubed is 0. And 0 plus 9x squared is 9x squared. Bring down to negative 5x. So here we're focused here again. 9x squared divided by x, 9x. Multiply, get 9x squared plus 27x. 9x times 3. Then we subtract, so we change the signs. So we get 0 and then negative 32x. And bring down the 10. Negative 32x divided by x is negative 32. So we multiply, we get negative 32x minus 96. So we subtract, we change the signs. Both of these become positive, and we're left with 106 is our remainder. So we'll say plus 106 over x